Hey everyone, this is Mani. I am excited to welcome you all to episode 29 of AI GTM Talks. As you all know, we do this every week, Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. We kicked off the series of talks because we found that there's a lot of confusion out in the market around AI and how to apply it for go-to-market. So we bring on either very seasoned tech CEOs, founders to go do a deep dive in one specific area. We also bring on revenue leaders, growth leaders to, explain how they're implementing AI at their companies, how they're transforming their businesses with using AI. We also bring on industry analysts, experts, thought leaders, and expert practitioners, and I'm super excited to welcome Ryan Staley. Ryan, how are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on, man. Good to see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Ryan, I'm going to put up the next slide, and maybe you can quickly introduce yourself, and what do you do? What is your firm about? And kind of your context in terms of who all are you working with lately, and then we can get going from there.
Sounds like a plan, man. I'll give you a quick overview. So contextually, like I was in go-to-market for about 23 years prior to starting my own business 5.5 years ago. Worked for always companies that were typically resource constrained or didn't have a lot of process or structure in place, but had massive expectations. And so it was a great kind of forming ground. Had an enterprise team, grew that from 0 to 30 million in 5 years with 4 salespeople. So another example of like not having a ton of resources or capital deploy. So constantly had to get really creative with how I solve problems in creating go-to-market strategies, or in terms of implementing sales process, or just delivering results as a whole. And so what happened was about 3.5 years ago, I actually had a guest on my podcast called The Scale Up Show. A guy named Chris Savage is CEO of Wistia, and then he introduced me to Dolly. I then got in turn access to ChatGPT basically the day it came out, and started stress testing against things that took me decades to learn. And I could get there sometimes within 3 questions, 95% of the way there of something that would take me like 10 years to learn. So started sharing what I was doing in terms of like AI use case, specifically for sales and marketing, and revenue leadership, and have been working over the last 2.5 years with AI transformation, specifically for go-to-market teams and executive teams with companies that are predominantly PE backed, or I'm also now working with a slew of publicly traded companies so that they can accelerate the transformation and integration of AI in their team to create a superhuman team and create exponential results. So that's kind of what I'm up to right now, man. It's been an awesome journey. Love the AI space, and excited to talk about it today.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. So, what I'm going to do, Ryan, next is, just to kind of frame the discussion, frame the context, right? I'm going to put up one slide, and also to share with folks a little bit about what our point of view is also, right? And hopefully you and I can have an interesting discussion around, I certainly want to hear what you have to say, right, in terms of how AI is transforming GTM, but certainly the way we've been talking to a bunch of CMOs, revenue leaders, and so I'm going to share this one slide, and then we can hopefully get into it. Is this one, right? I mean, there's a lot of change happening, as you know. The entire tech stack is completely changing. Let me make sure that this thing comes up here. 1 second. Are you all able to see this?
Yeah, it was there.
Yes. It was there. It's gone. Okay.
It's gone. It was there. Now it's gone.
But anyway, the point I'm okay. The point I was trying to make is what we think of is there's AI is changing the traditional SaaS tech stack, right? You've got components that people have always had, some backbone technologies and tools like a marketing automation, CRM, some sales engagement tools, but now a lot of companies that we're talking to seem to be putting together this one component. They're calling it a signals hub. They bring together all the buying signals, personal level, company level. Then they're doing orchestration, right? Like an orchestration piece to kind of do the outbound personalized messaging, sequencing, and then getting the messages out there to engage prospects. Of course, they pretty much everybody's using AI a lot for content. They have an AI content engine. So I think just with this framing, and then systems of engagement where you can actually do the outbound and so forth, right? I know this is more outbound centric, but I'm sure there is inbound, there's product led growth, there's so many areas that come into play. So I'm curious. So I'll stop this, but hopefully this is just to frame the discussion around where our head is at, right? That's certainly at Kwanzoo in terms of some of the tech we've been building out. As you know, it's more on the Signals Hub, and then we integrate into a lot of the other technology and tools. Let me just frame it this way. I'll ask you this, Ryan, to start. What are you seeing in terms of different areas where people are applying AI? Maybe you can touch upon the marketing side if there's anything interesting you're seeing, and then let's go and maybe dive a little deeper on the sales side. Ryan, over to you.
Yeah, definitely, man. So there's a couple of areas that I'm seeing light up, and it's kind of interesting, man. Like it seems like the bigger the company, the further behind they are in terms of AI adoption, which is pretty wild. I've worked with rolling out programs that I think there's over like 250 different folks over the last 48 hours that I've worked with. And it's really interesting just to see the differential with that. I would say in terms of like what's hot in marketing is like AI SEO, effectively AEO or whatever you want to call it, so that results show up in the large language model. Examples of that I've seen my clients successfully implement is they started to reverse engineer like what results were coming up in the LLMs, because conversion rates are, some people are saying, as much as 6x a normal SEO rate. And so they reverse engineered it and started making, I don't know, it was pretty close to like, I think it was like 100% improvement in a few months in terms of how they were showing up in the LLM responses. So there's ways where you can actually use the LLM to understand the LLM. And when I say LLM, I mean like ChatGPT or Gemini or other ones like Perplexity is kind of a mix, but Claude as well. And so on the marketing side, I think one of the things that I'm seeing is there's still like the core elements of not a systematic way to orchestrate the different areas within marketing. And so effectively companies they're giving the tools to their team and they're saying, hey, go use this, work through it. But like you really have to have a much more structured approach to do that and to scale AI. It's got to be from top down and bottom up. And so that's one of the things that I'm seeing companies struggle with right now. The other one, if we look at sales, or do you want me to shift gears to sales, or do you have some questions on that at all?
On marketing, do you have anything to add in terms of commentary around, just content creation, content repurposing, LinkedIn, getting more awareness generated through LinkedIn. Anything in those areas that you've seen that you really, jumps out at you?
It's interesting, man. I think there's a big squeeze in terms of LinkedIn and content. And it's because first of all, if you want to get attention, you have to, now it's kind of like table stakes. And I've seen this, one of the largest creators on LinkedIn told me this, is basically you have to extensively engage in comments if you want to have a good sense of I should say growth within that area, because like literally the person did nothing different and their overall reach on LinkedIn cut in half. And this was like over the past 4 to 5 months. So so that's something that I've seen. But what also I'm seeing work really well with content is like it's got to be really freaking good. So it's starting to evolve like kind of how YouTube is, where it's not a quantity play, it's a quality play. And so that means like executing at an extremely high level in terms of like the hook, what's hot at the time, visual stimulation with whatever the visual hook is, and then also video. Like there's a ton I want to tackle on basically LinkedIn and some of the other social platforms. I've been like pretty swamped with new, I'm growing the company and doing other, hasn't been a primary focus, but there's a lot of opportunity there, but you definitely have to put more rigor behind it now if you want the same reach that you used to. So that's one of the things that I'm seeing.
Understood. And so just for the folks listening, Ryan, I'm going to tell them that, Hey, folks, Ryan has some incredible content he's going to be sharing. I know you've got a whole suite of AI prompts that you've developed, for with some of the major LLMs. And, I know you've got prompts on the marketing side. You've got prompts to kind of help people kind of get some value and get started, and get going pretty quickly on the sales side. But before we get into that, because I know you're going to be doing a bunch of show and tell around that, let's talk high level about the sales side of it. Where is AI really, being used effectively, and you're seeing some good impact on the sales side, Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's if like relevancy is the most important factor right now, and I know with signals, right, which is kind of your game, and in terms of how you focus on signals. I think marrying those two together of the relevancy of what's happening with signals that are being displayed in the market, along with like a tight connection to how you could help the client or prospect with that. So I'll give you an example. Like deep research is one of the most underused technologies. I ran a cohort of close to 900 go-to-market executives. You might have been involved. I think you were involved with it. And one of the things that came up is it was like roughly right around 30% of people use really deep research. And it's one of the most effective prospecting tools for understanding relevancy and details across companies. And so like one of my clients, they had Boeing as a customer, didn't have a ton of business with them, and had a massive opportunity to cross-sell across a lot of different divisions and departments and segments. And so effectively what we did is we created a prompt for them to leverage that. And basically what happened is it pulled up 20 different contacts across all the different divisions that were an exact fit from an ICP perspective. And then with the exact messaging that was relevant for each individual division on what that person did and what their company offered and what solution they offered that matched that. So then what happened is he took that messaging, created, kind of custom outreach based on that. Once again, all within the LLM, all within ChatGPT, and started booking appointments consistently with basically, Fortune 50 company. And it was a really junior rep that did it. So that was something that impressed me and is a really good example of the use case of what's possible when you leverage some of these agents that are already available, and you don't even need the orchestration. You just need to understand how to use the core fundamentals of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious about maybe it would be good at this point, Ryan, if you have any examples, anything you want to share around, maybe we can start top level around some prompts or prompting you might be doing, maybe to understand an account, understand, an ICP, segment, understand some of the psychographics, the buyer, persona detail. Yeah, I'm curious.
Definitely, man. So yeah, I'll share my screen 1 second just to kind of pre-phrase it, or I should say, preface it. One of the things that I think is massively underutilized right now, and this hit me like a sledgehammer right between the eyes when I was really preparing and finalizing some work I was doing for a client, is that the memory has gotten so good within these models as long as it's switched on. And this is across Copilot or ChatGPT. I think Gemini released theirs, even Claude as well. And the thing is, it's not tapped into. And it's a gold mine of information when we're talking about what we're doing with like basically how to create custom messaging or basically super tight relevancy when it comes to outreach or even just pipeline creation as a whole. And so I'll give you an example. I'm going to share my screen real quick so you can see what it looks like. But it's one of these areas where I have a personal account because I do a lot with clients. I have multiple accounts here. And what you could say, what I typed in here, and you can tell I copied this from something else. I said, hey, can you create a one-page document on my ideal customer profiles, including size, company titles, et cetera? Do this based on the data you see in my chat history and based on what you know about me. Okay. So what this is it's a tap on the shoulder or on the head for the LLM to say, okay, use all the data you know about me and then create useful information. All right. So one of the things I did here is I created an example, and it created my top three, a chief revenue officer, which I work with, gave the tech stack, the triggers and the pain, the target outcomes and KPIs. Same thing with the CMO. And a lot of this is true. You know, there's a little bit off. I started working with bigger companies. So what I realized is you can give it, if you give it a tighter window of time, like maybe say the last 6 months, it'll hit that. And then it's got VP of RevOps. It's got an engagement model. But then what I started to do is go deeper. And I'm like, all right, give me a psychographic profile on each of these. So what it started to do is really dive into the fears, buying style, messaging. And once again, this is work that would take a really long time across a lot of resources to pull up. Now, what it's offering are 3-sentence openers, a proof pack, all these other areas. And I'm like, all right, I actually want the psychological that will make them have to meet it. Okay. So basically what happens is you can see it's got the approach, the core psychologically that compels a meeting, which is what I'm looking for in this situation, and then triggers by role verbatim. And based on all the discussions, this is this is like spot on. The other thing I'll tell you that I did as relation to what I just mentioned with prospecting, this is a little bit different, but this one is for pipeline creation. Okay, I love this use case. And it's funny because this kind of spawned off a different thing that I was working on with the client. But basically, as you can see, the instructions are pretty similar. I say design a top 10 custom signal guide specifically for me based on my chat history and workflows over the past 12 months.
Oh, wow.
So I did a better job of instructing the model to only use the last 12 months, if that makes sense. Did you have a question, Manny? Or
No. I'm just commenting as you go along because you're very, I think you're using, as you said, a lot of the memory and the contextual knowledge that the LLM has about you from all your usage. So that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah,
and there's other things that you could do, but basically, new PE ownership or add-on, new CRO, new Copilot Gemini rollout, right? These are all good triggers for me. And so I'm like, all right, next step, identify the top 10 accounts in Illinois that fit this for my business. Boom, it created the top 10 accounts with actually links to why that trigger was hit there. And then I also said, okay, prioritize it and focus on the new CRO or CMO, right? So this is a trigger, a buying or a new trigger signal for a new hire, right? So then it pulled up each one by Illinois with the new role when they were hired, all the way down to the top 30, which I was like, holy cow, this is impactful. And then I said, do it for these 5, and because it's asking me to follow up. And then it went deeper on the 5 that I picked, right? With examples on how I could connect to them and what to do. And then I even asked it, I'm like, identify how many sellers and marketers they have, and it pulled all that up as well. So like what I'm starting to see is most people don't understand how to use GPT-5 differently than GPT-4. And like I'm seeing insane jumps that a lot of people are like, this isn't as good, because they basically expected it to like make your breakfast, take you out to dinner, and do everything for you, all by pushing a button, all automatically. But the truth is, you could actually get it to act like a really good agent if you just give it the right instructions. And I didn't even get into one of the free resources I have that basically shows how to prompt properly like that as well. So,
gotcha. So, I think. That's quite a bit right there, because I'm guessing a lot of people aren't even using these LLMs for answering very basic fundamental questions. So if you're an account exec, if you aren't doing this, you're probably missing out on quite a bit of very valuable information for prospecting within your territory.
Well, I mean, it's not just it's beyond prospecting, right? Because like everything I just showed you, you can create an entire content plan based on that, right? And like, let's say you're in Copilot, if you connect to the work or use the work mode, that's an example where that'll contextualize all your Drive data, everything in OneDrive. The other example is like what's happening with these large language models is they all now have connectors, which are MCP connectors, where you could connect to different sources or data points within your own system. So for example, one of the things I did the other day is I connected an MCP server basically directly through Zapier, which also had connections to my Google Calendar, my Gmail, and all those examples. And I asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, I want you to because I do a weekly recap, right? As a CEO, I'm like, hey, what did I do well the last week? What's going on? What are the results? And then what's coming up the next 2 weeks that I need to account for? And so I had to do that in an automated version, and it was really freaking good. And then, another example is like how to talk to it and prompt it so you can get agentic responses or act like an agent. You want me to as well? This is one I had specifically for sales, and it's really cool because it's only that gets it to act like this, but most people don't know about it.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm curious too. Yeah, so you're saying
it won't take long.
You're
it's
gonna
actually
have
it's super
somebody
simple, and this
as
is the resource. Oh, go ahead. So he's asking a question.
No. Let's do it. I think you're talking about how you're going to have an agent, basically, right? Function on behalf of a salesperson.
Okay. Well, yeah. So here's the wild thing. And normally I would run this live. It's just with streaming, you can't necessarily do this. So this is the resource that Mani mentioned. And I actually created a whole YouTube video on this. So the agentic prompting video is a good resource if you want to see the whole walkthrough of this, but I'll give you kind of the micro version of it. Basically what this is these are all the different versions that OpenAI identified as like the optimal ways to use GPT-5. So I'm like, all right, let's apply these to different go-to-market use cases like sales, marketing, CRO, right? But what you're going to see here, and I wouldn't do this if I was using the API because you might chalk up tons of credits or a big bill. Obviously, it needs to be tested. But I put in the language, keep going until you have complete profiles. Never stop when you encounter uncertainty, right? So what I'm starting to do is I'm using language to dictate to it how it's supposed to act at a deeper level. Another really one of my favorite cheat codes is do this all in a single pass. So you could give it a multi-step approach, like do this first, like do this second. Like let's say, for example, research this prospect from an ICP perspective, understand the hooks and triggers that they have, create outbound messaging, a sequence of let's say 7 steps, and then give me a plan to integrate content with that, right? And I could say, do that all in a single pass for this ICP. And it does a really good job of that. So, and as you can see here, what I did is I just contextualized the different prompting styles with that. And what is in red are just kind of the examples. I also even have an output of what you would, fill the prompt in so you could use this yourself. So effectively, this is a free resource that I have for the listeners. If they want to check it, there's going to be a link at the end, and you can grab that to make it super useful for you.
Yeah, so I think we are going to be, folks, we are going to be dropping a couple of links on the, for this talk. The talk, as you know, is live on LinkedIn at the moment. And so right below the talk, there's a couple on the comments. I think, one of our folks is going to be dropping a couple of links. So I'm going to share the screen just to show folks, Ryan, about, I know you have a bunch of templates, which is more marketing related, AI prompts and templates. And then you have another, which is a bunch of AI prompts that are more sales oriented. Let me just share with people just so they see what it looks like. So I think this one, can you talk to this, Ryan, the marketing GTM prompt starter pack that you have available? What's that about?
Yeah, man, super simple. So this is a resource. So I was speaking for the AI Marketing Alliance, and basically there was a AI school that they had, and I was on a panel with the head of digital experience over at OpenAI, a guy named James Finlay, who's a smart dude, really sharp. And I was on with Trinity over at User Gems as well, so who's the CMO over there. And so what I did is I created some examples of prompts that you could leverage to effectively, as a CMO or as a marketing leader, to get a massive jump. And these are like tried and true prompts. These aren't just really fast LLM generated prompts. These are examples of what I've known to be true. I even have one in there to have Steve Jobs make a presentation for you, how he would make it. I have a lot of other examples as well with personas, areas of objection, using your own board of directors, things like that. So some things that are really fun and useful at the same time, so that you don't have to learn how to do this by yourself. So that's the first one. And then the other one with sales is the one that I just showed you. It has marketing components within it, but it's a little bit of a sales slant. So yeah, this is the doc. You just drop your email in, you'll get added to that. And then, you know, I'm going to share details on a weekly basis as well for my newsletter, so you can stay on top of it.
Yeah, no, so just so folks can see it, Ryan, I'm just bringing up the sales one. So, you know, we'll just quickly show them a little snippet of that. So I think I get what you did on the marketing side.
Yeah, that's the one I just showed on the small side. Yeah, that's the one I just showed.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, this is pretty much it. So you've got real world GTM stuff, as you mentioned. Yep, good stuff. Just walking them through it. Okay, so now let's keep going. So Ryan, I'm going to now move the discussion a little bit in a couple of other areas. I wanted to ask you. So then we've gone through a bunch of use cases. You know, are there any other than using the LLMs, which you know, obviously I think you're recommending people get proficient at, you know, get really good at. Anything else that jumps out at you in terms of you know, AI tools, technologies that for you have been kind of you know, really made a significant impact in terms of how companies are transforming their GTM? Anything you want to highlight? I'm curious.
This is a classical, right? I mean, I do appreciate what GenSpark's doing, especially for marketing and how it operates agentically. So that's something that I like. It's a tool that uses multiple different LLMs and systems. So that's a great tool that I like. The other thing that's like outside the box a little bit that most people wouldn't even think of, that I'm dipping deeper and deeper into, is using Claude Code for go-to-market activities. So basically, most people get pretty scared of it because it's like what's called the CLI, which is a command line interface. So it looks like you're coding. But the beautiful thing is, if you understand how to use LLMs, it takes a little bit of patience to get set up. But once you get it set up, you could effectively have multiple agents do things for you, custom to exactly your environment, what you want. And I'm like, I combined it with basically Obsidian, which is a note taker, like not a note taker, it's like a note depository, or like an information depository you could have. And so that's something that I'm super excited about because of what I've seen early. And that's right now I'm testing out mostly on like content creation to accelerate the time to output, and then have that orchestrated in the background with things that I'm doing. So that's something that most people don't talk about. They only talk about it for code and development, but really excited about what I'm starting to see from that as well.
Got it. So I definitely, I wanted us to recap the tools you mentioned, just so folks don't miss it. One you said was GenSpark, right? And so that was certainly one of them. What was the other one, Ryan? You said Obsidian, was it?
No, it was Claude Code with Obsidian, right? So it's both of them kind of combined. So Claude Code with Obsidian, yeah.
Okay, understood. All right, so those are a couple of things you're doing in terms of doing some advanced use of AI and LLMs for implementing a bunch of things. I wanted to then ask you now, just move the discussion along a little bit. So we've covered, at least certainly on the technology side, the tool side, we've covered a bunch of different use cases. Let me just ask you about this next thing here, which is, let me ask you about what are you seeing are some of the biggest challenges that people are still facing when it comes to integrating AI tech tools, processes, working it into how are they doing their go-to-market these days?
Yeah, great question.
Let's talk about the challenges side of things for companies.
Yeah, I think one of them is the speed and quantity of the tools. So there's existing tools that are advancing so fast. Then there's the speed of all these new tools coming out at an incredible rate. So there's tons of noise in terms of trying to understand how to cut through that and use tools that are actually really useful, right? So I think that's like one of the biggest patterns that I'm seeing. And that's more like the marketplace in terms of how it's affecting it. What I'm seeing at the individual level, and I think this is going to disrupt more than half of the Fortune 500 companies, is either companies are really big and successful, and so they are guarded because of IT security, so they won't implement AI across their go-to-market teams, or they'll give them a really watered down free version that sucks. Personally, I'm not going to say how that works or what they do, but they'll give a free version and they won't offer any structure or focus around it. And they just say, hey, go figure this out, right? I see it with there's a lot of AI first CEOs who've launched memos that are very popular, and that's their approach they take. And then those are the companies that are coming to me and like, hey, Ryan, can you please help us with this? Because we need to scale this and get an ROI, right? So that's one. And then the others, basically people saying like, just mentally, they're like, hey, I'm too busy for this. I have too much going on. Whereas like if you invested, let's say 4 hours over the period of a month, or maybe let's say 6 to be conservative, or let's say 10. If you invested 10 hours over the course of a month to really truly understand this at a deep level and get started, you're going to save 10 hours per week in perpetuity. And that doesn't even include, scaling what's possible for yourself and 2xing or 3xing your work and output. And if you're too busy for that, then those people are going to get replaced by people that are more open-minded and make this a priority. So I know that sounds like kind of harsh, but like I'm saying this like really direct and succinct because I've lost my job before and go to market's one of the hardest professions because it's so performance based. So I'm just saying this to like kind of shake you and wake you up and say like, pay attention to this, focus on this. This isn't just a fad. This isn't just a bubble. Like this is accelerating, and some of the things like I have access to alpha versions, I should say, of tools that are coming out from some of the big providers. And it's insane where this is going, and it's not going to slow down. It's going to speed up. So that's my public service announcement.
I'm going to ask you a related question because I think you're touching upon something so important, right? Because there's so many experienced demand gen growth, GTM professionals, right? And people with a lot of experience in the last, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But then the AI has come along and that as you said, they've all had to relearn, reskill, retool. So I think that's some good guidance for them. What about, let's talk about young people. Let's talk about people who are new graduates who might be trying to figure out, I have a marketing degree or have, how do I get into this world of marketing and sales, the way it's been changing so much in the last 6 to 12 months? I mean, have you thought about that and, anything to share?
It's a great question, man. And I have kids that are in high school, or one's in high school and one's a little younger. So I definitely think about this. And I would say, number one, if someone wants to get into that area, is they have to first demonstrate agency. That means they take on a get shit done attitude, and also walk the walk, right? So they just find a result done that's needed, and that's got an exponential premium if you combine that with curiosity. So that's one step, and that has nothing to do with your training. That has nothing to do with your experience. That's like a decision that you make personally in terms of how you're going to approach and attack problems or opportunities. So I think that's step one. Step two, I would say, is like, and step 2 and 3 are actually related. Number one is ask as many questions as you can to understand how to get and achieve results from people that have the subject matter expertise. Okay, so then you could start jumping years and doing that. And then also, once again, understand how to ask those same high value questions to AI, whether it's to learn or to get things done and work done for you. So I would say, just to kind of recap, the 3 things I would say is 1, agency, right? And curiosity combined. So that's the mental bridge. Step 2 is like relentlessly deconstruct what top performers are doing and how they behave. And step 3 is like understand at a really deep level how to use all these tools that are out there. And you could just pick one large language model and get really deep in terms of understanding on how it can help you in your journey, but also help produce outcomes for the role that you want to take on. So I think those are the core three.
Yeah. And then look, I know that for GTM professionals these days, a lot of people are joining these communities, right? I know you and I have met each other at Pavilion, sales and marketing and revenue lead. Any other guidance for folks on resources, where to find those, as you said, people who really know their stuff and who are experts, and learn from them, and kind of be a sponge? How do people learn? I mean, there's so much out there. Is there any framework for that?
Well, I think the simplest is and this relates to everything else with go to market, right? Because if you deploy the right strategy in the wrong stage, you're not going to get a good result, right? A stage of the company. So let's say, for example, I have a right strategy for growing, but it's a strategy from growing from 0 to 1 million versus a strategy going from 100 million to 200 million. You're not going to get anywhere near the same results because it's just fundamentally different. And so I think the number one thing that I would look for anybody that I'm going to learn from, and you can do this with the LLM, but you can also do this live, is look at people that have generated real results for the exact thing that you want to do. The beautiful thing is, I don't know about you, I don't know about you growing up, but I couldn't at the click of a button, have a deep researcher comb 150 websites asking me to identify, let's say, a CRO that's grown from companies from 10 million to 100 million with exact examples on what they did, how they did it, and who they did it for. You could literally ask a question to deep research and get all that. So that could give you the source code for who to follow. And then you dig deeper in, right? You could use you could highlight one of them and say, give me all the frameworks that they used to make this happen. What were the challenges and problems they had? What were the things that they were exceptional at, right? So that's a really simple framework on how to do that. And then there's amazing tools, like I said, once again, outside of the research, is using Notebook LM, and you could have it create cards, videos, podcasts, whatever you want from the data that you find within that, to start to integrate that into your soul. And then you could have the large language model even customize it to you, right? For example, when I was shaving, this was a year and a half ago, and voice mode came out on ChatGPT, I said, hey, give me a 2-page summary of this book, right? So I'm not going to say what book it is, but it basically gave me the entire 2-page summary of the book. And I'm all right, this is exactly what I do. This is my business. This is the stage I'm at. Customize your recommendation in view of the book based on everything that I'm doing in the stage I'm at. And then it read off to me basically a customized version of that. Then I took it one step further and said, okay, now I need a plan and tools to actually implement this strategy. What would I need to do for that? And then it spit out cheat sheets, checklists, a strategy plan, all those details. I did that within 20 minutes when I was, shaving, brushing my teeth, getting ready for work, right? So those are examples of what's available now. And so there's no excuse if you don't take action, because literally it's never been easier. And it doesn't mean that life's easy right now. There's a lot of different challenges our kids have now that I didn't have growing up, and a lot of other folks. But in terms of learning, this is one of the most insane opportunities for growth that anybody could tap into instantly for pennies on the dollar. And so it's right there for you.
Yeah. Sounds that's amazing. Now, the last part you talked about, I think you just to recap, you said you used Notebook LLM, was it, to do what you just said?
Well,
the whole customized
I use so you could take deep research from, let's say, Gemini or ChatGPT on a different topic or area. You could just copy and paste it, because Notebook LM can collect resources. And so you could paste YouTube videos in there. You could paste output docs, text, even web links in there. And so you could put all that data that you get from that compiled research, and then you could have it basically Notebook do different things with it, right? You could have it turn it into a short podcast. You could listen to that while you're driving. You could have it create a quiz, a brief, a mind map, a lot of different areas like that. And even like it now has like learning capabilities like flashcards and other areas, right, that are really, really strong. So yeah, that's a great resource on how you could stack those two together.
Amazing. So I think then
Does that answer?
in the a few minutes that we have left, Ryan, I'm going to move the discussion now to have you put on your thinking cap and think ahead a little bit. So let's talk about what are some of the GTM kind of AI for go-to-market trends that you are watching for closely, for the rest of the year and going into next year. And how do you think, the different marketing functions, sales functions, organization, at companies, what do you see changing in terms of orgs and how they work, the kind of people that they might be staffed with? Let's talk about those two areas, if you don't mind, just looking ahead to the next, 6 to 12 months.
Great question, ma'am. So I think we're reaching the point where there's a agent maturity. And what I mean by that is like, agents actually have the capability to do good, useful work, and they're intelligent, right? And it's like if you look at it a year and a half ago, they didn't work that well. But what's happening is because they're using these AI models and tools to effectively improve themselves, that's why the exponential development curve is happening so fast. And so due to the fact that I see that happening and coming and working now, and there's different like elements of that where you can leverage it. I think what's going to happen over the next year, it's going to start being more prevalent, is people are going to have to redesign org charts in terms of and make them outcome charts, right? So, or outcome orgs instead of just orgs, right? Where you have people assigned to this is the job you do. So it's like a job description chart. That's like how we operate today, right? And you have the hierarchical mapping. This goes all the way back to like the early 1900s and when the first one was developed. But what it's going to be now is it's going to be more on like, all right, this is the outcomes that we need to get done. These are the people and the agents that are going to do that in these different sections and sectors, right? And it's going to be more fluid. So that's going to continue to change as the technology adapts. And so we went from this more rigid, hierarchical person here, person here, person here. It's more, okay, these are the outcomes the business needs. And then these are the people and the agents that are going to support them. And what I've even heard conversations about, I heard the CEO of Replit talking about this morning, actually, which is pretty wild, is like, we're even going to give agents the capability to have a wallet where basically they'll have money and they could either hire other agents or humans to do work for them, which is just wild. So what I mean, and what he brought up, which makes a lot of sense, is let's say an agent's trying to complete something and there's a CAPTCHA that you need to complete to make sure you're a human. He could go on TaskRabbit and hire someone just to do CAPTCHAs for them and then pay them, right? Like, it's freaking wild, right? But that's where things are heading. So it's going to be exciting, scary, unbelievable, all at the same time, man. So we either got to like get on the bus or get run over by it. And I made a decision. I drew a line in the sand 3.5 years ago, that I'm going to get on the bus and just see what happens. And it's been a wild ride, man. And I'm excited to see where it's going.
Okay. No, that's I think that's just maybe a hopeful, a way to kind of wrap up the conversation. I'm going to put up a slide, Ryan, with kind of contact information. Maybe you can tell people, good way to, get in touch with you, learn more, keep up with, whatever you're working on. So let me put that up, Ryan.
Yeah,
if you want to share
definitely,
that,
man. While you're pulling that up, here's what I'll tell you all. Like, if you grab one of those resources, you'll get in the loop with me, and I release content weekly in terms of the latest happening with AI. In terms of like connecting with me, LinkedIn is a great way to connect with me. Reach out, send me a connection request. If you want help with your team, and this is something you want to deploy at scale, feel free to send me an email. It's listed there. But basically, like I also publish videos on YouTube consistently and have a podcast called The Scale Up Show. So those are all ways where you can get content from me. stay in the loop, and then connect with me if you need to.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. And folks, as we wrap this up, I wanted to let you all know Ryan and I are going to be at the GTM 2025 conference next week in DC. And our episode next week is going to be live from Washington, DC. So come join us. We'll do a wrap up about the GTM conference, what we learned. We're going to have maybe a few guest speakers. Hopefully it's going to be fun. And it's going to be next Thursday at 8:30, for 45 minutes. If you like this show, please leave your comments for us. And certainly you'll have resources of what you just heard in terms of Ryan's resources. We'll have links to his prompt templates. And that wraps it up for today, episode 29 of AI GTM Talks. Ryan, thank you for a wonderful show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. It was a blast. So we'll see you next week, hopefully. And